do not pitch a story linearly. Do not pitch it
Exactly.
how it is going. You do not pitch a script. A script is not a pitch. That is a totally different mechanism. A pitch is a sales tool to get people excited about an idea that you are also excited about. So when I generally describe it as concentric circles. So
That's
I
exactly
pitch the
how
thing.
I think of it. That's
Do
crazy.
you do it that way too?
Yes.
Oh my God, Winnie.
Concentric.
More reasons to love Winnie Holzman.
Welcome to Third and Fairfax, the official podcast of the Writers Guild of America West. I'm your host, Brian Gary. In our latest episode, Susie Singer Carter talks with screenwriters Winnie Holzman and Dana Fox about collaborating on the hit film Wicked for Good. The three discuss the creative challenges in adapting musicals from stage to screen and much, much more. Listen and subscribe to Third and Fairfax on Spotify, Apple, or Libsyn, and watch us on the Writers Guild of America West's YouTube channel. And now, here's Susie in conversation with Winnie and Dana.
So welcome back to Third and Fairfax, the WGA podcast. I'm Susie Singer Carter, and today I am rejoicified and filled with gratitude to be speaking with the screenwriters, Winnie Holzman and Dana Fox, the team that transformed the beloved Broadway show Wicked into a two-part film. The absolutely exhilarating Wicked, which covers the first half of the show, and now the epic sequel, Wicked for Good, which covers the second half of the Broadway production and picks up with Elphaba, the Wicked Witch of the West, played by Cynthia Erivo, and who had left Shiz Academy at the end of the first film, but returns this time on the opposite side of her friend Glinda, played by the amazing Ariana Grande. And there has been there's been a declaration of the enemy of state, and the film that released on November 21st is already earning rave reviews, and I am in agreement. It is phenomenal. Please welcome Winnie Holzman and Dana Fox.
Thank you.
Hi, ladies.
Thank you.
It's so nice to be here. Thank you for having us.
So, I want to get to, because there's so many things to ask you, but, I think, can I just set the stage by saying I think, and you can correct me, that the first film, kind of stuck as pretty close to the first half of the stage show, and then the second went just incredibly epic and just brought so much to it that I'm getting chills talking about it, because I cried like an idiot in this. I was like, I'm crying.
Like an idiot. Are you kidding?
Like I was crying nonstop.
Times, and I cry when talking about it. It's like it's just a very impactful. It was that bizarre alchemy of all those things all working and hitting at the same time. It's pretty, yeah. And thank you for calling it epic, because that is how we felt working on it and writing it. Yeah. And so it's so great that it feels that way watching it.
Oh, it does. It is epic. I'm sorry. Go on. It was epic.
Dana and I are keenly aware that there are many moments in the first movie that we rethought, that we broadened out, that we gave more. We added things that are not in the show, but I think your assessment is correct, that there was more opportunity in the second part of our musical. There was a lot of action that was described off stage, off-stage action that was described on stage. So obviously that was.
And I think the other thing is, by definition, there was a lot more real estate, because the second act is 45 minutes and our movie's over 2 hours. So by definition, we got to create so much more new material. Of course, all of it was with a deep reverence for the play and for the DNA of the play and for the feeling of the play. We constantly had that as our beating heart at the center of everything we were doing, but there was just a lot more opportunity for expansion in ways that I know that Winnie and Stephen had wanted to do back in the day if they could have had the play be 3 hours long.
Yes. There's just so much you can do on screen, obviously, in a movie that you can't do on stage. And we were really wanting to, all of us on the team, we all wanted to make these movies be movies. And so how do you do that? You rethink not rethink, because not necessarily every moment, but many moments we reimagined as movies. And that was a lot of what our job was here, to to go in, and also that was part of the beauty of being able of once we had decided firmly to make it 2 movies, then we really knew we had room. We had room for those those beautiful new Stephen Schwartz songs, without having to cut any of the other Stephen Schwartz songs. We just had so much more breathing space. And as Dana says, the second act of the musical is a real breezy, short. I mean, not breezy necessarily, but it runs quick, quicker than the first part of the first half, Act 1. So it just all lent, gave us that freedom.
Right. I have to say, when you say you wanted to really bring it a movie, you brought a film, and I walked out of there. I went alone because it was a pre-screening, and I thought I wanted to tell people, is that not a movie? Like I just saw a movie, because I haven't seen a movie in a long time like that, where you really are just lost in it, and it's fantasy and magic and beautiful. It was so beautiful. And just visually appealing and touching all the feels, funny and sexy and warm and heartbreaking too. So, and surprising. And I don't want to tip anything, but there's a lot of surprises.
Yes, there's so many surprises. And that was one of the things we were so excited about too, is just having audiences, we just wanted to come and knock their socks off, because, you sort of think what you're expecting out of this piece if you've seen the play. And we wanted to make sure that it was a surprise and a delight, and that it felt like a fully new experience. And it's a testament to Winnie being so flexible, honestly, and Stephen being so flexible about their incredible legacy work that they did, that it actually feels like it took on this complete life of its own. And it was because they were so willing to go down that path with us, and it was incredible to have a collaborator like Winnie who was willing to do that, and who was the most game to do it of anyone. Honestly, she was always like, yeah, let's try it. Let's go nuts. Let's go over here. Let's try this. So that was really, really fun to be a part of. And I'm so glad that you're describing all the different feelings, because, I think my fear with this second movie only being its own movie was that, how are we going to balance the need for levity, the need for all of the quiet moments and the up feelings and all the things that weren't necessarily built into something that was meant to be the conclusion of a story. And so that was a lot of, I think, the work that Winnie and I did, was sort of making sure that all felt like it was in there, so that your experience of the second movie would feel like a complete experience, as if you had never seen the first one. You would be okay that the second movie would hold up as its own,
as a movie.
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Not just an ending, but a movie on its own. Yeah. I mean, thank you for saying all that, Dana. I mean, it was really my job, I felt, going in there, to be really open-minded, to not be clinging to, well, this is the way we did it before. And, honestly, there were times when I did find it hard. I mean, very hard. But Dana and I can attest to, we had a real time crunch when we were writing these 2 movies back to back. So there was a lot of intensity, but I felt so honored to be able to be part of turning them into movies, since a lot of times, you're not allowed in, you're not the writer who originated, let's say, the thing that's getting adapted isn't always the person that gets to adapt it. And it just was such an incredible opportunity to rethink things and to tell, in some cases, I think Dana and I both agree that we feel that we found even more exciting ways to tell the same story that we could only do in a film.
That was always what we were always trying to say to ourselves, if we can do it anyway, let's force ourselves to do it the way that you can only do on film, on a big screen, not at your house with a big audience or in a big room. And that was always sort of the fun challenge to ourselves, was can we make it that? And a lot of times that meant intimacy, that meant closeness in faces, and that meant deeper emotional stuff. That didn't mean going explosive. That meant coming closer, actually.
Right.
And we had the greatest movie of all as the thing that was our North Star, which is, of course, The Wizard of Oz, the movie. So, for us, we were all thinking this is our opportunity to actually make a movie that felt as grand in scale as that movie must have felt to people when they saw it in 1939. It must have blown people's minds.
Exactly.
So we thought, can we try to do that in a time when people have seen absolutely everything? How can we try to do that? And for us, it was like with real emotions and with real stakes that we believed in. And then also, I always think it's just such a luxury that we were able to make that story about two women who love each other, who care deeply about each other. Because look around, what Hollywood movie exists that gets to be this big, that gets to be a superhero movie, that gets to be a blockbuster, but it's actually about a platonic love story between two friends. I mean, that's again, I have to give that to Winnie and Steven for just doing such a bang up job, that they knew that people would actually want to see something like that on such a big scale.
But it's funny,
they
because
did achieved.
Yeah, whenever anything new, as you know, Susie, it's you're really finding your way a little bit in the dark. You're always you're always kind of wondering what, going back to the very beginning, always, of like, what does she want in this moment? What and I think one of the things Dana and I we were talking about this recently together. One of the things we were really committed to was this idea of, like, on stage in this part of the show, let me put it this way, how can we have them interact, physically meet each other again, meet up even earlier than we do on stage? Is there a way to do that? And remember, Dana, we had other thoughts of how it would be.
We wrote lots of scenes actually for them to meet up somewhere. Yeah.
In order to find the right way. And then we found this idea of, which I love. I love it so much. This idea that Elphaba wants to confront the wizard, but Glinda believes she's come to witness her wedding. And in a way, she has come to witness her wedding. There's a part of her that can't stay away. But there's a part of her that's going, I'm going to use this wedding to get to accomplish my goal. And this interesting idea, which it's buried in our show, but we bring it out completely differently in the movie. We just do it, we just play it completely differently in the movie. And that's really satisfying to me.
We also thought about movies where when two people can't be together, but you want to feel like they are together. And, and for me, it was weird things. It was like the Star Wars movie where Rey and Ben are like connected through space and time, but they don't actually meet each other for a really long time. So a lot of that was, editing and shots and cutting from one thing to the other that makes you feel the connection between the women. And then a lot of it was also written and, planned very much so, especially because we had the honor and the privilege of being able to do both movies at the same time. So we knew we can set up this pamphlet that she can look at that can remind her of the day that she invited her to come to Oz, when it was all possibility and hope before she ever said no and didn't get on that broomstick.
Right.
We knew what poppies were going to mean. We knew that it was a symbol between Elphaba and Dillamond originally, but that actually it kind of became a symbol of Fiyero as well, because he came to bring her one at the train station. We knew, so we tried to almost like think of it as a big musical score in a way. And it's like, what were the visual things we were going to set up and then reprise? What were the visual things we were going to use to trigger a feeling in the second movie that we needed to remind you how they felt from a year ago? Because instead of walking into the intermission and grabbing your drink and then coming back and having this experience, you had a whole year. So we knew that. And we were thinking, how are we going to make people feel the feelings of the first movie? And what I love about what I think we were able to craft was that it kind of reminds you of what it is like to get older and to reflect on a relationship that's
Yes.
gone on for a really long time. And
Yeah.
by the end of the movie, you feel like you've been on this almost a lifetime journey with these two women.
Yes.
100%. 100%. I want to touch on the collaboration because it's so unique. And you talk, this is a fully collaborated, piece of art. And it's so different than probably most writers have ever experienced. And that's that you spent over 150 hours on Zoom with Stephen Schwartz, the composer, with the director John Chu,
Exactly.
and having the director be so involved in scene by scene and being able to contribute and you all being, I don't know how it went, but I'd love to hear more about how that collaboration felt for you and how did it work and how, and was it just incredible? Because here's these four brilliant people and
it
just
was really
so
incredible.
many.
It really was. It was incredible because we even though I was alluding before to how we had a time, element, and we did have a strict deadline in terms of when we needed both scripts to be finished. But we also, this was, I think, so much what John set the tone of. We took our time in the very beginning, the four of us, and John really wanted to hear from Stephen and I what we were thinking about in every beat of our musical. And then we would start to all four of us really talk and collab about what could happen here, what could this, how could we express or evoke what we're trying to get at, visually. How it was like really in depth, really micro. Is that the right word?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was really in depth.
Yes.
And then Dana and I would be going off and writing during this, I believe. Well, at first maybe not, but pretty soon.
At first we were breaking the story and we were breaking it into the two different movies, and we were creating outlines for both of the movies because we knew that since it was such a big amount of material to take in, we all had to have a blueprint ahead of time, that we were all on the same page about this is what's going to happen. These are the order of the scenes.
Beat by beat. Yeah.
Beat by beat. And then, as Winnie said, we interrogated every single moment that ended up in both films on a level where we can tell you there were 6 scenes written instead of that one. There were 14 lines that we wrote that did not win over that 15th line. There were, it was really count. That level of
basically
minutia. Well, when you can't count, I can count. But that's all I can do. No. And so that level of detail. And as you were saying, Susie, having John Chu there to hear the way his brain works and processes what are his visual ideas and the way he's hoping to convey emotion. We'll never have a better experience. At the time it was very stressful because we were racing, against the clock, and it's 2 movies and it's a ton of work. But in retrospect, I will never have a better work experience ever in my life because,
and we had a lot of fun.
Magic.
It was,
but as a writer, you're always trying to guess what the director wants.
Yeah,
and you're thinking God, I hope this guy likes this thing. And P.S., it's always a guy because we've read the statistics. It's 7%, 4% if we're lucky.
Ain't that the truth?
I know. Hate to say it, but here we are.
Yeah.
We could say to him,
so
does this seem like what you're looking to do here? And then I could, go off, or Dana could go off and show him what we are thinking of. And then sometimes he's going, no, I need this to happen. I need it to be more like this. And then it was so collaborative, but sometimes we would be I think, Dana, correct me if I'm wrong. Let's say I would write 3 different versions of how this one beat could go. And which is the one? What does he?
And you would present it and say which one is most what you're looking for, and then we'd use that one as the hero and go from there.
Because I want to give the director what he or she is inspired by. What he or she feels that they can work with. I don't want to be giving them something that leaves them deadened or feeling like that isn't quite what I meant. It was so good to be able to just do it. Really, it was really practical. I think it was practical because we knew we had a big job. So we were let's not fuck around. Let's hear what we all are thinking. And we were all, and Dana would just,
and then you're not building it on a false foundation.
Yeah.
So you're building it on the foundation that everybody is behind. And then, there was this exhilaration of just how brilliant all the other people were that were there every day to talk to about this stuff. And what it made me feel like is I want to bring my absolute A game every second of every day. I want to show these people that I deserve to be here. I want to show them that, like I respect them and that I deserve to be in this incredible quote unquote room where it happens. Because it really did feel like the room where it happens, especially when like Stephen Schwartz would be like, ba-da-ba-bow on his like, keyboard. And I'd be like, I was a child. I wanted to be in theater. I was in a tiny town in Rochester, New York. And it was like a flashback to me as a child. And then I'm sitting there watching Steven and tears are coming out of my eyes. And I'm just looking at Winnie going like, you had this for so long. He's so amazing.
Steven is a masterful storyteller. You can kind of see, you can sense it and see it and feel it in his songs. Steven just is has so much depth of understanding of how musicals are put together, because he's done it so much since he was really young, and he understands story really well. So he was always an incredible source for me, obviously.
And then sometimes Winnie, it was as simple as, John sort of saying, I need a very fast moving energy here.
Yes.
And that was it. And then you'd go off and I'd be like, well, here's a chase scene. And Winnie would be like, well, what about this running thing? And then we would just be pitching all sorts of ideas. And then he'd go, I'm kind of interested in that one and that one. Go, like beat those out. Let's see what happens. And to me, that is, as Winnie was saying, it's like, it's the ideal creative experience, because you're the whole time you're writing, you're making the movie.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of times you're just writing to write, and you're like, I don't know, let's try this thing, let's try that thing. We were making the movie while we were writing.
Yes.
What a luxury. What a luxury. I mean, that's like the ideal. It's magic what you guys,
Thank you.
No, it's so ideal. What you're saying seems so yummy and so good, and the ideal situation, because it might be more time consuming in one way, but other ways it's going to save time because you're cutting to the chase, right?
Totally.
And we were getting to know, Dana had already worked with John. Dana knew John really well. Stephen and I were meeting John. Well, Stephen had met John, and I think worked with him briefly. But I'll just speak for myself. I didn't know him at all. And, he's an amazing, brilliant director, amazing person. But I needed to hear, I loved hearing what mattered to him. Like just and of course he didn't tell everything. I mean, there were still so many surprises of what he ended up doing, which is natural. I think, especially for someone as creative filmically as he is. There's some things that he had in his head that I didn't even know about in a way that came out later. But I just found it so exciting artistically to be able to.
And I think the thing that was, that was really fun for me was I had such an incredible working relationship with John before this. And so I got to watch in like slow motion as Winnie and Steven had the John Chu experience, which is like no other experience. So it's like I had that in my life where I suddenly was like, oh, I never want to work for anyone else ever again. This person is incredible. And then I got to watch Winnie and Steven do it. And it was adorable. They were like, wait, John Chu's incredible. I was like, it's just the beginning. Please enjoy. Like it was just so delightful for me. It was really, really fun. But the whole experience of doing this movie, I think the other thing that Winnie and I are so proud of is, it was hard. It was incredibly difficult in a very fun, exciting, challenging way, not like a bad way, in a very challenging way. It was just like, wow, we are walking a tightrope with this tone and with this job. So the job was satisfy rabid fans who feel like they own this thing. Like it was their own thing that was created just for them. And you have to be respectful of that, because when it means that much to people, you have to take care of their baby. Like it isn't even Winnie and Steven's baby. It's their baby. It's the fans' baby.
Right,
So you have
right.
to take care of their baby. And then you have to do the impossible, which is give them something they're not expecting that will blow them out of their minds while also remaining true to the thing that they loved and not changing the stuff that would make them upset if you changed it. But if you kept it too similar, they would hate you. And so every day we were walking that tightrope on tone and trying to make the right choices and do the right thing,
So
you know, in that challenge of an environment, which to me was really exciting and cool. And then we had this extraordinary other piece, which was the Wizard of Oz that we were, you know, in communication with, which was just like, I can't believe we're touching the rarefied air of the Wizard of Oz. I can't believe we're anywhere near this. And so, you know, to have that be the puzzle pieces that we were playing with every day was incredibly invigorating. And I hope it brought out our best work, because we threw everything we had into it, and we literally left everything we had on the field because we cared so much.
Well, thank God it was you. Thank God it was you two, because it's an embarrassment of riches that you have when you think about all, you know, and the adaptations are, but you've got, you know, it is great because you've got this material, you've got ideas, but now you have to form it into a film. And books are not films. They're the opposite. They meander and they go, and they're very large, right?
Yeah, and musical stage plays are not films. Yeah, they're
right. But you adapted, and then adapted it. And how was that process? I mean, I know we can't fit it all into this one interview. Can we have 5 more, Greg? But I mean, there's so much to talk about. Well, how was that?
I mean, Dana can speak to this too. I think in terms of adaptation, my North Star was always, Steve and I had this in common. It was ourselves. And when Dana joined us, that it was Dana too. It was like, we just always asked ourselves, what's the part of this that we have to hold on to, that we have to investigate, that we know is sexy, or that we know is funny, or that we know is really touching. It never, that's what I was alluding to before when I was saying about how I felt my job was to come there, you know, not as the sort of keeper of the musical, but as a person who'd been brought in to adapt the musical. So in the beginning, you know, I really swung for the fences. This is even before John Chu came on the scene. Some of my early stuff that I wrote is in the finished movies, are in the finished movies, but some of the stuff I created, I was just really opening my mind, Susie. I was really going like, maybe it could be this, maybe, you know, I could name you things, but I don't want to go into it right now. But there were just things I came up with because I was just trying to be creative the way I would be if I had been brought in, you know, just to adapt anything, right? I just wanted to not be stuck, like to not have a closed mind, to have an open mind. And in order for me to do that, I had to kind of go wild at times and kind of go maybe. And I think one of the great things about John is really in love with the musical. He loved Wicked. He saw it as a young man, and so he saw it at a very meaningful time in his life. And he was watching it in San Francisco when we were out of town. I mean, I wasn't there. I mean, I was there, but I didn't know him. And it just gives me chills. He said to himself, this could be an incredible movie. I mean, he has told us that actually happened to John Chu. That's amazing.
That tracks. It tracks with him, right?
Yeah, when he was at USC, right, Dana? Like when he was a student.
Yeah. He was a student at USC, and he went back to visit his mom because he and his mom had always gone. He and his whole family, his mom had always taken them to theater, and I guess they had missed some theater because she had been going through treatment for some cancer, and so to make up for it, she said, "Come back home. We're going to go to see this play." And he came back from college to see Wicked and saw it. And I think he told me, you know, I remember thinking some director is going to be so lucky that they get to adapt that into a movie. And I just love that John is such a dreamer and such a big dreamer that he had a dream that was so outsized for himself at that time. And then he just step by step, through his hard work and who he is as a person, made it happen. It's just awesome.
So can I pivot off of that and Winnie, please join in, because I think that kind of vision and also bravery to look beyond what you think, right? That you think that, especially with the Wizard of Oz, like,
Right.
notwithstanding that the Broadway show is beloved, well, and then the movie. Let's talk about that. I mean, it's been, it is in the fabric of all our lives, and but
It's
to
a great
have
American film. Yeah.
and for you, and having the belief in, and I think why it works so well is because both of you have brought so much heart and soul into it, and that's, you touch people's hearts and you have them, and you touched our hearts. You made us laugh, it was sexy and all those things, and it was thrilling, but I think that's the secret sauce. What do you think? I don't know, I just feel like your hearts are all over it.
I definitely think that, don't you, Dana? I definitely think
Absolutely.
I think we had a belief, strong belief, that people want this. People want to feel. People don't want to feel numbed out. They don't want to feel alone. They don't want to feel numbed out. They want to feel part of something, and they want to feel emotion, and not cynical emotion. The emotion that was born of just innocent love. Just raw, compassionate. Love. No matter how what you've been through, no matter how much you're maybe not an innocent anymore. That to go back to that deep well within us all of compassion and love and caring, and I'm just not afraid to go there. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I think we all write what we wish we could see and what we wish we could experience, and that's what I'm always interested in. I mean, I love it. And I love it to have humor. I love it to have, I don't want it to be one note. As Dana was saying before, we definitely tried to hit many notes.
Yeah. I also think that the one thing that many things that Winnie and I sort of share in terms of qualities as humans is that we're both like kind of fierce in our own ways that are also feminine and also loving and warm, and we're not afraid to feel things, but at the same time we're not afraid to try to be powerful. And Winnie's very witchy, and like so we have this stuff in us that I think actually we tried to imbue it into the movie. We tried to put it in the movie because, I think it's the contrast of that stuff that makes it feel so impactful, is that you're not just in a land of like weeping and emotions and constantly feeling things, but you're actually like, you're also furious. Like you're so angry. And Winnie and I talk all the time about how angry we are at the way certain things go in the world and how things are. And we're not afraid of that anger. And so we really tried to make sure that that was also a part of the movie, so that it felt balanced and it felt like power could include all that stuff as well.
Exactly. When you look at our story and you boil it down, a lot of it is about these two young women who step into their own brands of power. They both
exactly,
and they that what we were saying to each other yesterday, like, sometimes when you have to make a choice in life, it's really because you've been backed into a corner and you're forced to, sometimes that's really what life is that you don't want to have to make the choice, but you're forced to make a choice. And that choice is who you are or who you're going to become. The question is, who do I want to be as a woman? Who do I want to be as a woman in this world? Whether I'm in Oz or whether I'm right here. And when you step into your own power, you're saying, that's the woman I want to be. And, I'm not going to do it perfect. I'm not perfect. I could still be scared. I could still be on any number of things, but I'm going to step into my power and become that person that I choose now to be. And that's what I think that's one of the reasons I think the movie's so emotional, because this is a time, and this isn't the only time in history, but this is a time in history when it's important for people to ask themselves that question: who do we want to be in this moment?
Yeah, you seized the opportunity, as I felt the political, reverberations throughout it, and that touched me because, you had diversity, you had just the sort of mob mentality and things that we're dealing with now, and that resonated, and you took this, IP, for lack of a better word, and like that everyone knows, and used it to the best, for the best work, right, for the best reasons, and you had, and it's a great opportunity, and you seized it in the best way.
Thank you.
Does that make sense?
And I hope people can see that through the genre of it being a musical. Because I know sometimes when people are thinking about movies, they go, well, I'm not a musical person, or I'm not that kind of guy, or whatever. But I delighted in seeing all the people who came to see the first movie and thought they were going to hate it because people were going to sing and dance, and that was going to be awkward.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
we converted them. We converted them. They're
Yeah.
like, damn, that's actually really good. And so I'm hoping that we can really knock people's socks off with the second movie, because there's just some stuff in it that is so epic and unbelievable. And Susie, I hope that some of those moments knocked you back into your seat the way they did to me. I mean, I have, you go through the gamut of having chills all over your body. You're probably going to cry all your makeup off. And also you feel physically like you're being shot in some sort of rocket into space.
Yeah.
Certain songs when certain things happen, you're just like, oh my God, I'm leaving Earth.
Well, that's the secret power of musicals, that, not every musical, but certain musicals, because music is so, speaks to our souls and gets us deep in our, and is the universal language. I mean, it brings us all together. I mean, look at what happens at a Springsteen concert, or at a concert of any great music, and then we have these two incredible women, these life force artists who are just masters of what they do. They're just incredible artists, and vocally, they're probably among the greatest vocalists
out in the stratosphere somewhere. Like, exactly. I don't know where they're extraordinary. Those women are incredible.
So, and I think what we're trying to express here is how much we cared. I mean, I have this theory, my little crackpot theories, but I have this theory that sometimes it feels like it's safer not to care, because you protect yourself, and I include myself in that. But what I've noticed in my life is when the magic happens is when I really completely commit and completely care all the way, which I know Dana did too, which we all did. And so I think there's a power in that, in letting yourself go all the way, caring 110% about everything.
And the care led to the hardest work we've ever done, because I think we felt like if we don't work harder than we have ever worked to do this, we will always look back and regret if we left 1% off. Like, if we were just like, we will fight and claw our way to 1% better. Like, we will do anything for a single
I just want to bottle you guys. I just want to bottle you. Like, everything you say resonates so much to me. I mean, that is so true. Everything you're saying, like, if you have this opportunity to make a change and people don't want to change, it's scary to change. It's scary to look at things that are hard to look at, and, it doing it the way you did it authentically. And that's, to me, is the secret sauce, and with, everything you've got. And that's what shows, I didn't know what to expect going in there. I didn't know what to expect with the movie. I mean, I love musicals, but I was like, I didn't know. I was just blown away. And I want, I know we have to ask questions that our union would love to know some things like, so can I just run some rapid fire questions? So I don't, because there's so many new writers.
We are both very committed union members, so whatever the union wants.
And we are both very committed to trying to help anyone come up behind us, younger writers, older writers who are starting later, whatever it means. We're both very committed to trying to help people get into this business, because there's no longer a way for people to get in. there are no small jobs that you can try and fail and learn a few times because you've got 3 small jobs in a row. Those don't exist anymore. So Winnie and I are both constantly talking about how can we help other people? How can we help them get up in the business? How can we give them the access to the kinds of things that actually make you a better writer, which in my opinion is the editing room. Like if you can get into an editing room, get there, sit there, be quiet, beg your way in, tell them you'll bring them coffee. It doesn't matter, because editing rooms, that's where you learn how to write. Myron Kirstein, genius on this movie. Every move he makes teaches me more about how to write.
So smart.
So I would say if you can get into an editing room, get to an editing room. Obviously being on set is almost impossible for writers now. So that's a difficult one. But if you can get on a set, even if it's a small set, even if it's like a student film at USC, just stand there and see what it's like, because it really helps you figure out like, oh, they're rehearsing that scene and it's not working. If I were the writer here, what would I do? What would I change? How would I make this scene work? All that kind of stuff. I'm trying to figure out how to help people get the experience that ultimately makes you into a good writer. So please ask away. Yes.
Sure. But I love the thing about editing. I think editing is, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that those are all magnificent suggestions, but let's not forget, just the hard work of writing draft after draft.
Oh God, yes.
Because, nothing takes the place of the writing, and nothing teaches us writing, and I say this with a heavy heart, writing is so hard,
and hard and miserable.
One is resistant. What did you say?
I said it's miserable, but I'm only speaking for myself. No. You seem to like writing more than I do. Writing to me is like
Dana Fox.
Pulling teeth. Oh, okay, good. It is so hard. I dread it. I think 90% of it is figuring out how to get yourself in the headspace to sit down for the first minute.
And it's so hard.
We get just 1 minute, and then
the resistance is high. It's really easy to fall into a feeling that you can't do it, or that you just can't bear to do it. But I have little tricks that help me, just reminding myself that I can write a really bad version of just one scene, and then that can be writing. And then as long as I have something that I can start to make better, but in the end, there has to be a willingness to make a fool of yourself, to have a really bad draft, and maybe more than one really bad draft, or bad ideas, things that go nowhere. You just have to make a big mess. You can't, it doesn't come out of your pen or your hands on the computer looking all good. It has to be.
It is an ugly thing in the beginning.
Yep. And you can be willing to not be confused a lot and not know what you're doing a lot. And sort of wandering around going, I really don't quite understand. And then just keep asking yourself the same basic, really important questions of like, who is my main character again? What does she want? Why is she not getting it? What's going to happen if she makes this decision? What's going to then come from that decision? All of these basics that we, it's always the basics. I think
well, and I think a lot of times what people, because I rewrite scripts a lot, I get sent a lot of things to rewrite, and I actually love that part of the job. I think it's so fun because you just come in and you're like, here I am, let me help. And then I'm out, and love you guys and good luck. And that's a really nice feeling. But what rewriting teaches me is it teaches me where a lot of the pitfalls are, which is almost all the time I get sent scripts where people say the third act is broken, the plot is messed up. And I get the script and I read it and I say, this is just a character problem. This is not a plot problem. You have no plot problem. Every plot problem you have stems from the fact that the character is not arcing in a way that makes sense, or having an emotional journey in a way that makes sense. And the entire plot will solve itself if you focus on the character. And it's almost always character. And wherever they think the problem is, it's never where they think it is. If they think it's in the third act, it's always the first act. If they, So I've noticed all these different things throughout the years. And so, that tells me exactly what Winnie was saying, which is stay focused on the really tight basics of your characters and make the plot come out of your characters.
That's so
beautifully
great.
put. Yeah, beautifully put.
So great. What do you do then when you pitched your project, you got it out there, and you're getting notes that don't resonate for you? How have you handled that,
Well,
or
I
do
just
you?
went through something like that, where I did get, a lot of notes, more than I was expecting actually, and some of them were I thought that they were not applicable to what I was trying to do, to put it mildly. But you always have to really, really. First of all, I have to take some time, because
Mhm.
I get a little bit freaked
Mhm.
out by notes. I mean, I try not to show it anymore now that I'm older. I don't show it as much. I always say things like, "That's interesting. Let me give that some thought. Those are good. Those are good lines." And I always say
Good.
that I'm going to give
You
that
should just have like a button you press that says
Write
yeah,
it down. Write it down.
and then you press the button and it says, let me give that some
exactly.
thought.
And but what I find very often is I'll think that something doesn't apply to me, or doesn't apply to my script, and I'll be in the shower, I'm washing the dishes, and I suddenly get an understanding of how I could do it in my way, how it could
Mm.
serve what I'm trying for. And I've had countless moments where something was said to me that I thought, I can't do that, I hate that, and then 2 days later or one day later, and it's usually involving water, like I'm washing the dishes or I'm washing myself, and I'm
Interesting.
understanding something in a new way. And so you really have to be open-minded, but without throwing out, and I hate to sound like now I'm obsessed with water, but don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. Don't take a note in a slavish way that you do not believe,
Mm-hmm.
just to please people, because they will not end up pleased. They will not end up pleased. They won't even
Totally
realize you
agree.
took
They
their
just want
note.
it to be good. They
Yeah,
just
they
want it
just
to be
want
good. They don't want
exactly,
you to do what they exactly asked you to do. They want it to be good. And so
exactly.
you have to
Mm-hmm.
do what you think is going to make it good based on what they are saying they think the problem is.
Exactly. But take
Got it.
some deep breaths, and get a little bit of distance, and don't be so sure you know exact. It just takes a while
I
to
also have a lot of like, Winnie, I love everything you're saying and I second everything you're saying. And also I love water. I'm constantly in water. I think really well in water. That's
me
really
too.
weird that we
Me
both have
too.
that.
Well, it's a
Um,
conduit. It's a conduit. Water.
Yes,
It
it
is,
it's
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's really
it's
interesting.
it's been
Mm-hmm.
proven psychologically.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen Schwartz actually showed me an article that showed that water and creativity are linked. In other words, when people are hearing running
I'm
water or
constantly in
feeling,
water. That's
there's a link,
crazy.
because it does something to your subconscious. It releases
Yes.
things
Yes,
in your
yes. Well, Jung was always talking about the water and what was under
exactly,
the water versus
Right.
what was above the water.
exactly.
Interesting. So yeah, I second everything Winnie says, and then I have a lot of tricks, and I think the best thing you can do as a writer is hack yourself. And so your tricks won't be the same as my tricks, won't be the same as Winnie's tricks, but really figure out who you are to work at your best potential as whoever you are. So for me, what that looks like with notes is I take the notes document, I copy and paste it into something I can manipulate. I
Mm.
put it in rainbow order of notes. The first note is red, the next one is orange, the next one is yellow. It's the weirdest thing because I
Love
just
it.
think it looks pretty and it puts me in a good mood. And then I write my responses to the notes underneath the notes. So I already know what I think of every single note before I even talk to anybody else about it.
Mm-hmm.
Then I take those notes and I usually do the low hanging fruit first, just to get me in the like, okay, I'm back under the hood. I lifted up the hood. I'm back in there. I'm messing around with the engine again. So I go do all the really easy ones so I can see myself checking off some little boxes. And I'm like, look who's checking off boxes. I'm doing great. And that was my trick to get myself to avoid that panic of restarting it when you
Yes,
are paralyzed
yes,
in
yes.
that way. And then once I'm in it, I'm sort of in it, and I will do every note I am given because I believe strongly that if people are paying for it, it is their money. They get to tell me what to do. And if I'm not going to do their notes, they're going to fire me and hire someone else to do their notes because they're going to want to see the version that they think they want. So I always do every note. Many of them don't work out. And so I revert or I change them or I do something different. But then I write underneath the note what happened. I say, I tried it. Here's what happened. This is why it didn't work for me. But if you want to see it, I have it. You're welcome to it. And most of the time that makes the note go away because they see like, oh, she wasn't blowing us off. She tried it. It didn't work. And here's why it didn't work. Other times I get that same note again. And the second time I get a note, I always put it in the script and I say, guys, this was what you wanted. I'm giving it to you because you really seem to want it. And then they see it and they go, oh, now we've had the experience that you had and we no longer want it, but we had to see it to know that we didn't
have to see it.
So I always say to writers, notes are good. They mean you still have a job. The only time they stop giving you notes is when you're fired. So enjoy the notes, learn to love them.
Yeah.
I also experience anxiety with them sometimes. So I did a thing where I got on a treadmill and I waited for 15 minutes until I was covered in sweat. And then I opened the notes and would read them on my phone. And I started to experience notes as giving me like bursts of oxytocin or whatever you get when you're exercising. So I physically trained myself to enjoy the experience of reading notes because I changed what my body felt like every time I read them. And that was another trick I did. And so now I don't get anxiety. I open them like a frickin' Christmas present. I'm like, ooh, the notes have arrived. I get like excited. So again, all of this is just tricks and it's crazy. And it's just me in particular. And it might not work for other people. But
brilliant.
It's just stuff to try. Try whatever you got to try to make yourself not hate it.
Whatever. I mean, it's our job. It's incumbent upon us to find ways to keep ourselves inspired, buoyant, feeling open-minded, feeling creative. That's our job. That's not somebody else's job. That's our job as writers. Now, I'm not saying you have a perfect day every day, but how this clever thing that this really brilliant thing that Dan is talking about is become aware of your own psyche and what helps you get into that space creatively. And then let's try doing that. You know, I have to admit, I don't take every note. I do not, but I take the time to really figure out what that note is alluding to, what their problem is. I really pay a lot. In other words, I won't necessarily cut something that they say, we don't like that, please cut it. Sometimes I will. But sometimes I ask myself, why don't they understand this moment the way I do?
Why this needs to be in here. Yeah, exactly. And then you change it so that you don't cut it.
Right, exactly. I rewrite.
Yes, of course.
Wanting them to understand what I really am, what I believe it could be, you know? Because a lot of times I haven't made that clear enough. I haven't brought forth what that moment meant to me and what it really is, you know? Sometimes you just...
I love it. I was just going to say, we're at an hour. I don't know if we can go on. I'm just going to throw out one more question that was given to me. It was like, what is one pitching tip that you can share when pitching for new writers? Or for pitching. Seasoned writers?
Well, I'm good at pitching.
Winnie, you go first. I love pitching. It's my favorite thing. You go first.
I'm good at pitching too.
You are.
I'm good at pitching because I have a lot of acting in my background, and so I'm even though I'm a shy person, I sort of moonlight as an extrovert, and I've been an actor. I've performed a lot. I used to be.
I saw you in Wicked One. We saw you in Wicked One.
That's not, I mean,
that's so
no, but I was like, that's Winnie. There's Winnie.
I scream it out for everyone who's around me whenever I'm watching. I'm like, that's Winnie. She wrote it.
Look, look at her. She's there. I was already in SAG.
And then Steven too. How cute is Steven? Yes, the wizard will see you now. That's so adorable.
My performer energy that I've done since I was young kicks in, and I do think of pitching as a performance. I do script it. I do memorize.
Nice.
I don't act like I've memorized something. I come in and act like I'm sort of just talking. But I have jokes memorized. I have bits memorized. Actually, I see it as my job is to be entertaining for bottom line, because they must be entertained. They cannot be bored, no matter what I'm pitching. In other words, even if I'm pitching the most serious subject, it has to be entertainment. You know, encompasses a lot of moods. I have to find a way to help them understand how excited I am about this. And that goes back to my point before about commitment, that it can seem when you're pitching like you'll be safer if you don't care too much, and then you're sort of protected when they don't like it. But the problem is when you don't care too much, that is signaling something to them. They're feeling it, they're reading it. And so you have to be all in, I think. And none of this stuff is easy to do. And I don't do it perfectly, but I do really push myself with pitches to come in and perform and give people a really strong understanding of why I think this matters, this story matters, and is exciting.
I love that. I love that. That's so.
I
makes
agree
so much
with
sense.
Winnie is so right on. I memorize everything. I treat it like it's a performance. I have jokes I've prepared, and then I have alt jokes for the jokes. When I start to think the jokes are sounding canned, I have new jokes where those jokes go. I mean, but I am totally prepared. I actually listen to my pitch, which I write down as a script, same way that Winnie does, and I listen to it over and over and over again in my head on a program I use on my phone called Voice Dream, and it reads it to me over, and I'll just listen to it 400 times until I've absolutely got it in my bones and I could do it in my sleep. And then my other advice to writers, this is something I learned the hard way. Do not pitch a story linearly. Do not pitch it how it is going. You do not pitch a script. A script is not a pitch. That is a totally different mechanism. A pitch is a sales tool to get people excited about an idea that you are also excited about. So when I pitch, I generally describe it as concentric circles. So
that's exactly
I pitch the
how I think of it. That's crazy.
You do it that way too?
Yes.
Oh my God, Winnie.
Concentric.
More reasons to love Winnie Holzman. Let me tell you.
The concentric.
So you pitch. You basically pitch them first, the thing that you're the most sure that they're going to want to buy, because then they're really paying attention. Then you go out further and you pitch them the thing that you really care about. Yes. Then you go out further and you pitch them the story as it kind of lays out semi-linearly, because now they're hooked and they're in and they know they want to buy it, but very quickly. And frequently I will pitch a pretty long first act and almost nothing, like a very quick second and third act, like barely anything, because by that point they should absolutely know what you're doing and be like, yeah, we get it. You're going to finish the script at that point. So for example, I don't talk about emotional things until very late in the pitch, because nobody comes in like caring about something. You have to get them like hooked on the idea. Like, this is the thing. So a lot of times it's like I pitch the poster, then I do the trailer, then I do the movie.
That's a good way to think.
That's kind of like how I pitch it.
Very cool.
Excellent.
Very cool.
Oh, this was such a great episode.
And I want to share it with anyone, because I love writers so much. I want everyone to have all my secrets, and I want everyone to be doing well. And I wish our business was healthier right now. And I really do believe it's going to get back to some version of health. But, as writers, we need to help each other out as much as possible. And we need to not do the classic thing of believing that there is only one wheel of cheese that we are all fighting for. I think the more we help each other, the more cheese we can make. So don't turn against your fellow writers. Still root for them. If they get a job you didn't get, tell them they're awesome. And to me, that's the best way to get our business healthy again, from the standpoint.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Dana. That's so amazing. I'm so happy to meet you. And Winnie, it's so great to talk to you again. I love you both so much. I think what you bring to the table is so much, so rich and worthy and worthwhile. I hope everyone listens to this episode. And I'm just thrilled.
It was such a pleasure meeting you. And I love every opportunity to see Winnie. So I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy to meet you. I love this conversation, and I love my fellow writers. I just do. Writers are fucking awesome. They're great people.
Yeah, the best people.
Hell yeah. We are. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I do. And don't forget to come back and listen to the next episodes, or get some back issues that you haven't heard, because they're all phenomenal. But this one is really good. Have a good one. Take care.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Third and Fairfax. You can listen and subscribe to Third and Fairfax on Spotify, Apple, and Libsyn, and watch us on the Writers Guild of America West's YouTube channel. Also check out writtenby.com, the Guild's online publication, for more on writer craft, career, and union life. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.